Scott Nason here with Canyon IT Solutions, and I wanted to put out a video that drills down on a little snippet I put out on Instagram, and that was how to reallocate funds out of your vendor's pocket and into your own where they belong. And I got a lot of feedback on this, a lot of people messaging me saying that's great, but what does that mean? It's a pretty broad statement. So this video is going to clarify a couple of those points. And what I say when I say reallocate money out of your vendor's pocket and into your own, it's this. You're paying 15 to 20% more to your vendors than you should be paying. That's, I can pretty much guarantee. I've done 150 plus healthcare engagements, multiple other engagements in the banking and finance sectors, manufacturing, etc. And that is about the number that we see across multiple different silos. Once in a while it's 15%, once in a while it's 25 to 30%, but 20% is pretty much your median average. So when I say reallocate those funds out of your vendor's pocket and into your own, there's a defined methodology for doing that. And if you do this right, it actually can be pro-relationship and not anti-relationship. So it could build the relationship with that vendor rather than deteriorate that relationship. And that's important because they're business partners of yours, and while they were charging you 20% too much, you still need them. So here's how you do that. The first thing that you do is general house cleaning. Through a house cleaning effort, you can see what's your current state, and you're going to find stuff out there that you're paying for that you thought you got rid of last year or 2, 3, 5, 7 years ago. Either in the case of banking and finance, and in healthcare, in high M&A, merger and acquisition scenarios, lots of clinics, physicians' practices. In banking, it would be ATM machines, administrative buildings, or banks that were either sold or relocated, and you're still paying for services at those locations that you thought you disconnected, or you're paying for licenses, you're paying for services and things of that nature, maybe even laptops, desktops, etc. So that would be the first thing, is go in and looking at that house cleaning effort and saying, can we find anything out there that we're paying for that we thought we should have disconnected, years ago? That's number one. And these things happen in succession. As I'm talking about these things, number one is number one, number two is going to be number two, and number three is three. Don't do them in any other order than 1, 2, or 3, and you'll see when I tie this up at number 3 why that's important. So number 2 is market analysis. Looking at all of your services and saying, am I paying what the market is yielding for these services right now? And do not let your vendor do this for you. I've seen that before, believe me. It may sound funny, but a lot of times the vendor will come in and say, we'll do a benchmarking for you. Well, that's a fox in the henhouse type of a scenario. Why would you trust what your vendor is saying when they're compensated on profit? They're compensated on net new revenue, and they're compensated on certain products more so than others. So the drivers are wrong. So that is something that you would optimally bring in a third party to help you with that, supply that independent intellectual property to help you figure out what is the market yielding for whatever that service is that's your target, whether that's laptops, whether that's in telecom, voice and data services, or whether that's licenses. Have a third party come in and supply you with some intellectual property and maybe even run the benchmark for you so that you can get to what the real market is yielding for those services. So number 1 is do your house cleaning. Number 2 is do a market analysis. Number 3, once you have those 2 things done, there's going to be net savings that are yielded there. And what you can do is, as you're negotiating a new contract, which is number 3, because that's what you definitely want to do, because your book of business is going to dramatically shift as you go through those first 2. So you want to negotiate a new contract that reflects that new book of business. And there might even be new services that you're going to be looking at in that new contract based off of what you found in steps 1 and 2. So in step 3, looking at a new contract, you want to use what you learned in steps 1 and 2 to your advantage. So if your vendor was overcharging you 15, 20%, you want that reflected in your new contract. So not only do you want to save on the services based off of what you found there, and those prices should be reflected in your new contract, also they should pay for their past sins. So if they've been overcharging you 15% or 20% or whatever you discover there, that should be reflected in the new contract as a signing bonus or a loyalty bonus or something of that nature. So you would take whatever you found of that 20% and say you've been charging us for however number of years, and we want that as a loyalty credit in years 1, 2, and 3 of a new contract, because most people do, depending on the service, 36-month contracts or 3-year contracts. Spread it out throughout the contract term, the life of the contract. So number 1 is go through and get your house clean. Do your inventory and figure out if there's stuff out there that you're paying for that you thought you disconnected a long time ago. I guarantee you're going to find a lot of it. Number 2 is go through a market analysis and look at if the market is yielding what you're paying for those services, and if not, then you want to make sure that in number 3 you get a new contract that reflects the new market rates, and you get that loyalty credit back for the overcharge in the first 3 years of a contract. You want to make sure that you're taking that across the life of that. So this was just a quick overview, kind of a consulting 101 on how you would reallocate funds out of your vendor's pocket and into your own. Thanks for listening. Be sure to visit us at www.canyonits.com. Have a great day.